Hey guys, Ziv here. I've just lit my pizza oven and I thought I'd explain a little bit about how I built this thing, because I reckon every Aussie backyard should have one of these. They're brilliant and they're not too hard to build. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ziv. I explain how I build things like my house and just go through a bit of my personal experiences so that you guys can learn from my mistakes basically. So this pizza oven is, I'll show you a bit around it. Basically the back of the bench is rounded, and then I've got these two wings as tables where we can lay pizza or roll things out or put ingredients or slice up the pizza when it's cooked. And I roughly had this shape in mind when I started. You could go any shape you want, but I wanted a good foundation for it to sit on. So we dug out and we poured about 100 ml slab under the lot. You can probably see it down here. There it is, the slab. So the pavers are sitting on top of the slab, and that just created a good foundation. I think I put a layer of mesh into it and just poured it. It was pretty rough, finished it. And that was that. Like, it doesn't have to be super good. It was probably about 100 ml of concrete. Mixed it up with a cement mixer. It was probably about 8 wheelbarrows full, and poured it in there. Then we got some leftover recycled bricks and we just bricked up this half round. I roughly marked it out because I knew that my pizza oven was going to be about 1100 on the inside as the circle, plus all your wall thickness. So I think we did about 1500 as the half circle down there. And then we bricked up these two columns. Nothing fancy with the brickwork. You can see it's a bit wonky. Doesn't have to be fancy, it just needs to support the weight. And we got all the brickwork to a level, but it wasn't even that accurate either. Then the next thing I did was form it up. So I got some form ply and put it under, and then the form ply I cut into shape, basically in place, the shape that I wanted. Now the form ply, it was just on the inside of this brickwork here, and then these two wings, the inside I had to cut in half so that when you unscrew it and drop it, I could take out one half at a time. And this as well, I think I did it in sections, like there was a join around these columns so that when you crack the formwork off, it can come off in pieces. And then yeah, I just had heaps of sticks of timber propping it up. Now for the edge, you can see it's not perfect, bit wonky. I just got some garden edging, the plastic stuff from Bunnings. You can get some metal edging or whatever, but that means I could shape it around as I saw fit. Even around the back here, I just attached it. There, you can probably see a screw and a plug. I just attached it to the concrete, and that was my formwork in a round shape for the whole thing. And then we put some, I had a bunch of offcuts from the footings of my house. I just steeled it up. It was nothing fancy. I think it was like N16 bar, really thick bar, and I just went nuts with it. Basically created a 200 by 200 mesh with it. If you had some mesh available, you could double mesh it or whatever. It's not like a slab, but where you're worried about cracking, but it is, you know, floating in midair. So yeah, and it's worked really well. I've had it for over a year now and there's not a single crack. So, and that's with heating it up, cooling it down and everything. And then we poured this cement and vibrated it, and obviously when you vibrate it slumps out, and I was, you know, like this spot here slumped out a bit. You can see it's not nice and round, and so I didn't vibrate here as much because it was slumping out, and that's why you can see it's less vibrated on that edge. But yeah, basically just vibrated it all. It doesn't really matter about this stuff as long as your steel has good coverage, and everything around your steel is vibrated, it's all right. I know that adds a bit of rustic appeal. I'm no perfectionist when I do all this stuff. Like, Look at that cubby house up there. I just whip it up with whatever materials I have, so it makes it look organic. I know if you were to do it for a client, you'd want a neater finish, but I just did this as quickly as I could to get it up and running. So it was all vibrated, and then I burnished the top and sealed it. And you know, when I cracked the formwork, I went around a little bit and tried smoothing off the edges. But yeah, that then was the slab. And then I had an Italian mate who had done this before come and help me. We got some fire bricks off Marketplace. They weren't too expensive, but make sure you get actual fire bricks so that they don't explode on you. And then I laid the dome first, and what I did with the base bricks, because they're sort of, you don't want them slipping out with the pressure of the dome, I just chem set them down basically with some 2-part chem set that you use for, in construction we use it usually for drilling a hole and then setting a threaded rod into it or something like that. I just chem set the bricks down and they were not going to move the outside. And then I laid the base inside, which is all these bricks here. They got laid inside, and my mate said, oh, you should do it the other way around. You lay the base first and then your dome bricks. So, but my dome is going fine, so I think either way you can do it. No real big deal, but you want to get those base bricks as flat as you can, because when you get your paddle and scrape your pizzas off, you want to be able to scrape across your bricks without nicking any edges. See, that one's slightly high and I'm nicking it. So bricks are never perfect, and try find the best ones to lay the flattest base as you can, because it will just help, you know, grabbing your pizzas off the base. Then we got a whole bunch of sand and wet it down, just some coarse bricky sand, which we ended up using as well for the render. So we double used it, and we built a dome, and I cut sort of a template out of a bit of formwork that I had left over from when I cracked everything off the bench, and I cut it into a shape, and then we just sort of screeded the sand. It was, you know, wet, and we compacted it and we made the dome, and then we made the shape for the entrance as well. So it was perfect, everything was perfect, and I had to have a big bit of formwork here basically, which was held up by some sticks and whatnot, so that we could bring the sand all the way out and it wouldn't, you know, collapse down here. Then we just started laying the bricks, so it was full bricks at the start. You can probably see there's a course of full bricks, you know, down the bottom. Full bricks, a couple of courses of full bricks, and full bricks for the dome. And then we had this inner dome as well that that supports the main dome, and then we have this other dome. So this dome is getting held in place by the render and the insulation, so it doesn't, you know, when you've got a lot of weight here for the chimney, it doesn't, the force is going this way at this point, and to transfer that force down, the render is what's holding it in place. And then yeah, you get skinnier and skinnier. Then we had to move to half bricks, and then right at the top it becomes, yeah, quarter bricks, and then we just packed cement in between. Now I didn't use fire cement, I just used normal cement, and so far not much has dropped out or chipped off. Like this here is normal cement, and yeah, there's a crack here and there's cracks here, but this is really the hottest part, where the most movement is, because there's no insulation over it. So the interface here, and you can see I've tried to patch the cracks, but they just keep cracking as the thing expands and contracts. You know, it gets to over 400 degrees in there, so you're going to get cracks, and I try to patch them up to keep it waterproof for the winter, and so that moisture doesn't get into my insulation. But yeah, then the dome was done, and I left the sand in there until I got the insulation on. Now with the insulation, I didn't go vermiculite or whatever is traditionally used. I went with Hempcrete, because Hempcrete is both insulative and has thermal mass, because you're mixing basically cement or lime with the hemp hurd and hemp hurd is really porous. It has a lot of tubes inside, so it's a good insulating material. And we packed that on there, probably about 150 millimeters of hempcrete as the insulation layer, which ends up being about R1, I believe. R1 or 1.5 or something like that. So there's a good insulation layer on there. And now there's all these hempcrete recipes with, you want to use a lot of lime. I couldn't wait 3 months for it to set, so I used probably 50-50 lime and cement and mixed it up in the cement mixer. Everybody says you got to have a screed mixer, and it didn't ball up too much in the cement mixer. It was fine. So yeah, there's all these tips and tricks in the hemp industry that you can follow, but you don't also need to follow. It worked fine in a cement mixer with 50% cement. The reason why you'd use lime over cement is that lime has less embodied carbon. It gets fired to a lesser heat, but then you also have longer dry times. So having a bit more cement content in there means it dried quicker. And then we rendered it, like I think it was 3 coats of just that same bricky or renderer's sand with cement, and then the render I burnished as well. So the last layer, we put chicken wire, like lots and lots of chicken wire in the first layer of render, and then the second, so it was 2 layers of render. The first layer was probably about 20-30 mil thick, and then the second as well 20-30 mil thick. So there's probably about 50 mil of render on here, and then the last layer I burnished. So I spent a good few hours just rubbing it, getting the cement to the surface to get as smooth a surface as possible. Now the brick chimney, I reckon I went a bit too skinny, because you can see quite a bit coming out the front here, quite a bit of heat or smoke coming out the front. So if I was to go again for a pizza oven this size, I would probably stay at that outer size. But once you lock it off with, my brother made me this door, steel door, so you have to use gloves. Steel might not be the best option, but he's a welder, so he got me a Core-10 steel door. And when I put it in there, the handle is basically the only air intake, and then having the restricted chimney really slows the burn down and keeps the heat in a lot. So there's good and bads for the chimney. It sucks, going in now to put more wood on or whatever, and there's heat billowing out at you. So yeah, I reckon probably a wider chimney, and then you can restrict it by laying a plate over the top, and maybe a bit taller. I do have a extension bit for the chimney there, but yeah, you're meant to have a certain amount of chimney there. So that's about it. The pizzas cook great in here. That oven will get to over 400 degrees. I've got a thermal imaging camera that I often run, and it maxes out at 400 degrees, so it gets super hot. And then overnight it keeps its heat. By the morning, because we usually do pizza for lunch, and then don't put any more wood in it by 2 or 3, and then in the morning at like 7 a.m, if we've chucked in a roast overnight or something, it's still about 200 degrees in there. So it works really well, and yeah, I love the pizzas out of it. They're great fun. So hopefully that's a few little tips and tricks on building your own pizza oven. It's not super hard, and it's a cool feature piece in your garden as well. So that blower I used to light the fire, but yeah, the fire's well and truly going now. There's all my hardwood from a branch that snapped down in the creek. So I usually light it with pine. I get offcuts from the job site, so it just use them up, and then use the hardwood for actually cooking to get the flavor. Yeah, so if you like more videos like this where I run you through, just have a bit of a yarn with you and run you through how I did something, hit a like on this video, or leave a comment if you reckon there's better ways for other people to do this. Get the community around it, and yeah, share your knowledge, your tips and tricks along with this video, and then more people can get these awesome things in their backyard. So yeah, I hope you liked it, and we'll see you on the next one.